President Trump pledging to set up new food centers in Gaza. He was breaking a bit with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu and saying he sees real signs of starvation. Here's the president yesterday.
We want to get the children fed. We made a contribution a week ago of $60 million, all going into food. We only hope the food goes to the people that need it, because so much, as you know, when you do something there, it gets taken by Hamas or somebody, but it gets taken. And we're prepared to help. We want to help. It's a terrible situation.
A great guest for us now, U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee. Ambassador, let me read two things to you. This is a statement from Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday. While the situation in Gaza is difficult and Israel has been working to ensure aid delivery, Hamas benefits from attempting to fuel the perception of a humanitarian crisis. And then Abe Greenwald of Commentary Magazine wrote this yesterday. Hamas didn't only leave Gazans open to the ravages of the war it invited, the terrorists continued to do so what they could to ensure maximum civilian suffering on their own side. Lots going back and forth. How would you characterize the situation in Gaza?
It's a mess, but it is a mess because Hamas has made it a mess. They could have ended this 2 years ago, shortly after October the 7th, but they chose not to. After they massacred 1,200 people and brutally murdered them, then they took 250 hostages where they've continued to torture them. Most of them are out, but there are still 20 living hostages, we think, and then the rest are deceased, but their remains are still in Gaza. It's not a pleasant situation, but it's unbelievable to me, Dana, that you see worldwide all the pressure is being put on the Israelis. The pressure should be put on Hamas. They're the ones who keep changing every opportunity to end this. The president was exactly right when a couple of months ago he urged us to stand up a food operation, which we did, called GHF. We fed over 96 million meals safely. It's also been a model so that Hamas can't steal it. Those were the two things the president said. Get food to the people who need it, but make it so that Hamas can't steal it. The UN method, which, by the way, has been a disaster, is one that, as they like to use the euphemism, it's self-distributed. That means the food is stolen off the trucks as they drive in. So is there suffering? Yes. Is it as bad as some of the Europeans say it is? No. But it could be a whole lot better. It could all be over quickly if Hamas would finally decide there's no future for them there, which is exactly what the president keeps saying.
In scanning headlines yesterday and this morning and reading some articles, there's a legacy media narrative that President Trump has broken with Bibi Netanyahu. You're the ambassador from the United States to Israel. How do you characterize it?
That's about as realistic as saying that I was personally responsible for the kidnapping of the Lindbergh baby. Let me assure you that there is no break between the Prime Minister of Israel and the President. Their relationship, I think, to be stronger than it's ever been. And I think the relationship between the U.S. and Israel is as strong as it has ever been, especially after the incredibly successful attack on Iran to finally let them understand President Trump wasn't kidding when he told them they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. That was an amazing military operation from both the Israeli and American sides. So no, there's not a break between them. The disconnect is with the media, who wants there to be an anti-Israel message that they keep getting across. But it's a false message. They've showed pictures of children who supposedly were starving. Turns out one of the pictures was from 2017. And it was about a child with cerebral palsy. Another one showed a very emaciated child, but it was because he had a disease. He was standing next to a mother who, by any standards, let's just say she was very well fed. So somebody was eating. It may not have been the child. So there's a lot of total misinformation. But here's a piece of information I can absolutely tell you is the truth. Hamas basically are savages. They have done cruel, unthinkable things to human beings, including their own people, by putting them in the place of the military targets, knowing they were going to be vulnerable and likely victims when attacks came, which were, by the way, pre-announced by the Israelis.
So much to ask you about. Let me just bring this point up. President Macron of France apparently is thinking about recognizing Palestine as a state, saying that true to its historic commitment to a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, I have decided that France will recognize the state of Palestine. The urgency today is to end the war in Gaza and to provide aid to the civilian population. I read also that the Prime Minister of the UK is thinking of doing the same thing. Do you see this as a diplomatic march on behalf of many countries to try to get this done?
Well, it's a very foolish thing to do because all it's doing is setting back any hope that Hamas is going to give up. This emboldens them, and that's what Macron is doing. And if Macron is so determined to create a Palestinian state, Dana, I've suggested that he could carve out a part of the French Riviera and he could create one in his own country. Why isn't he taking in people from Gaza who would like to leave voluntarily? Why isn't the UK doing it? If they're that headstrong about relieving the suffering of the people in Gaza, let them be the first to step up and not only take in refugees, but why aren't they contributing to the food distribution? They're not. They've done nothing. They've not lifted a finger. All they lift is their tongue, and what they're saying is very detrimental to any future peace process, and it's certainly detrimental to dealing with Gaza right now. It has just made Hamas feel like that they have a real opportunity to declare a victory. That would be like letting the Nazis have a victory after World War II. What a disaster. This needs to stop. We all believe it. No one wants it to end more than the Israelis. I spoke today to a family whose son was killed over the weekend in Gaza fighting. And I can assure you, there's not an Israeli in this country that doesn't want this to end, including the prime minister. And the only reason it hasn't already ended 670 days ago is because Hamas, they don't care. Right. And they don't mind it continuing because they're hoping that finally they'll just be able to hang on and the world will end up saying, yep, they get a victory. And then we have more October 7th, more hostages, and more crises like we're seeing in Gaza right now.
And they continue to use those living hostages as their human shields. Thank you, Ambassador Huckabee. Please come back.
Thanks, Dana. Great to be with you.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.